In the Mail, alongside reports that Arsenal have held talks with Galatasaray over the signing of striker Victor Osimhen. Star, plus news of Arsenal's pursuit of Ezri Konsa, but they say that the transfer fee could be an issue. OK, let's go back to the Mail then and switch to Arsenal, who the Mail say are in talks for star striker Victor Osimhen. Arsenal have discussed signing Victor Osimhen during talks with Galatasaray over the potential sales of Gabriel Martinelli and Ethan Nwaneri. What do you make of this one, Jack?
It's an interesting one. Osimhen's one of those players that crops up sort of every couple of years that, you know, fans decide we've got to have him. He's somebody that's going to set the world alight. You know, he's done well for Napoli and looked to be the one to move for a huge fee at the time. Arsenal have looked at him before. Chelsea were in for him and then ended up going off to Galatasaray. And we weren't, you know, everyone was quite surprised by the move that he made there because he was incredibly hot property. What would that have been a couple of summers ago now? But he's very much an unknown quantity for Premier League fans, Premier League teams. No one will have seen too much of him. So it's a hard one to judge quite how much of a difference he'd make to Arsenal. I think refreshing the front line is something they need to do if they can move a Martinelli and a Nwaneri on and really bring in some proper high-level competition. I think Martinelli has been a fantastic player for Arsenal over a number of years, and every time he's been written off has sort of managed to come in and help them in games, whether that's off the bench or as someone that Mikel Arteta has trusted to start. But now they've won the Premier League title, they want to make a statement in terms of kicking on. They can obviously attract players that they might not have been able to before, having not won silverware like that. And they're, of course, looking to go one extra step in the Champions League. Whether Osimhen's the one to do that, I don't quite know. Vinicius, their pursuit for him as a replacement for Martinelli certainly would have been a player to move the dial. They've obviously not been able to succeed there. It just feels like Arsenal need a big statement arrival, where we're saying United don't quite need that at the moment. Arsenal, to sort of follow on and keep the excitement going and the level going from winning a Premier League title, a player of a standard of Vinicius would certainly get everyone going and keep the pressure on for the competition. Osimhen, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, so Arsenal trying to strengthen up top, but also perhaps trying to strengthen at the back as well. As reported in the Star, Konsa fee is going to be an issue. You see that at the bottom of your page. Arsenal have been back in touch with Aston Villa over a potential deal for Ezri Konsa, but his £60 million price tag is a bit of a big stumbling block. Riyadh, could this one get over the line? It really feels like Arsenal trying to put all the pieces in place to make sure that they can really defend their Premier League title.
I think Konsa's a good option for them. They've obviously got the Saliba situation to deal with, and you know Timber's missing from fullback. Konsa's a really good player. The problem I'd have with this is they are quite far apart on valuation by all accounts. I think Arsenal are probably looking more in the 40 million range. So it's whether or not they can get that done. They're certainly going to have to improve on where they're at to get there, but it would be a really solid signing. I think when you look at Arsenal's squad on paper and what's gone on with managerial changes at City, at Liverpool, Chelsea being Chelsea, and you know the sort of traditional rivals there, I still think Arsenal, as we sit here today, I think Arsenal are the favourites. I think they've got the best squad, but getting in an extra centre half, because how do you cover for someone like Saliba? It's near enough impossible based on form, right? So it would be a big signing. I think it would be very important to them as well.
What can you tell us about where Arsenal might go next now Vinny's off the cards?
Yeah, Vinny's extended 2032. I suppose Arsenal fans who got excited will now be feeling like they were a stalking horse in this deal. But Arsenal did make a strong pitch and had a genuine desire to sign Vinny Jr. Hindsight, wonderful thing. And it looks like Real Madrid upped their offer and Vinny Jr. had leverage. And now Arsenal looking to sign a left-sided attacker. Really, they want two, according to my information. So Gabriel Jesus could go, and there's interest from both Brazil and Italy. And Arsenal, between now and the end of the window, will look for that kind of starting left winger that was originally Morgan Rogers, and then in addition to that, a more central attacker, and that's where the links with Julian Alvarez come in, and the beauty of Alvarez is that he can play in both positions. Now, with Alvarez, Atleti don't want to sell, and yet maybe if the player really agitates, they would prefer to sell outside of La Liga than within it to Barcelona, and in that respect, it could mirror the Harry Kane deal, where Daniel Levy had no intent to sell Kane to Man United, but it was a better deal and an easier negotiation for Bayern to get over the line. As of now, though, no movement, but Andrea Berta knows the player and Atletico Madrid really well. They've discussed Iliman and Jai. That was long before Morgan Rogers or the failed pursuit of Vinny Jr. They also, at that point, liked Anthony Gordon, but of course, he went off to Barcelona. And Junior Krupi, another player on the radar, but neither Bournemouth selling appetite is there, and add to the fact that the player's now injured for 3-4 months as well. So that doesn't appear to be moving either. So it feels like Arsenal are back to the drawing board now, but I agree with you. They will be looking to make another statement signing after Bruno Guimaraes, and it wouldn't at all surprise me if 2 more attack-minded players come through the door between now and the end of the window.
Wow. One of the things we've been talking about are the reports regarding Christian Romero. I mean, Darren and I both agree that in terms of, you know, the culture that he represented at Spurs, and we saw that manifest itself in the way that Argentina behaved in the World Cup. Every single Spurs fan I speak to wants him gone out of the football club. He's been linked to Atletico for a long time. I know that you've been reporting that, Ben, but there have been recent links to Arsenal. We think that that's absolute pie in the sky. What's the latest when it comes to Christian Romero?
Yeah, it is pie in the sky in the sense that Spurs don't want to sell to Arsenal even if they get crazy money. And remember, Arsenal first wanted Ezri Konsa still a target, and Aston Villa's valuation was in excess of £60 million, and Arsenal were only prepared to pay half that. So if they're to proceed with Ezri Konsa, they've got to up their bid. And then coming back to Romero, Tottenham, who signed Jan-Paul van Hecke 1 year left on his contract for £52 million, are obviously going to be using that kind of valuation as a starting point if they possibly can. Maybe the number drops to sell him outside of the Premier League, but if Arsenal come calling for Romero, the price would be astronomical, and even though Sol Campbell did it, there's absolutely no intent to sell to a rival, so that's going nowhere. Even though Romero was discussed internally, Inter have tried, but the overall cost of the deal is also problematic. So Atleti, even though they haven't bid yet, are probably the favourites now, and the reason why I say that is because 12 months ago they were there as well, and Romero did an interview and he said he wants to play in La Liga. So the players leaning towards that move, and now the Spanish side are expected to bid.
Ben, serious question for you. You know, I'm Arsenal. They've got some terrific centre-backs there. Yes, they've got injuries. Are they really looking at Romero? Is that where they are? Knowing the controversy that would create, knowing how difficult that would be, or is this just more nonsense from agents and media and stuff to drag it in?
I think agents can't really put that link out there because we put scrutiny on it and say, wait a minute. So my information is Arsenal have discussed the player, but it's not gone any further. They basically want a centre-back. They looked at John Stones. He went to Inter. They're still trying for Ezri Konsa, who would be the ideal choice. But Arsenal basically bid half what Aston Villa are looking for. And Romero, to some extent, just a market opportunity. At least clubs want to try their luck because maybe Tottenham are looking for an exit now. Mickey van der Ven is going to extend. They've strengthened in defence already, and as you said in your original question, the challenge with Romero is that at times for Tottenham he didn't act like a leader. One of these strange players like Marmite, I suppose, that can divide a fan base, because if he's on your team you get behind him, as of course they do internationally for Argentina, but so many games we saw a loss of head, and that's the big challenge. I think that Tottenham are happy to sell him, and maybe for a premium, because they realise they're building a new culture here. They've revamped their defence, and to a large extent he's surplus to requirements, and that's maybe why Arsenal were wondering, could we get a deal here? But the cold hard reality is if Arsenal knock on Tottenham's door, it's either going to be, we're not even answering the door, or you want this player, give us £100 million.